Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and welcome back to another match preview. In this week's episode, we will be turning our attention towards the EFL Cup, where we will be playing Crystal Palace in a Wednesday night under the lights third round home fixture at St James's Park. I'm Scott, I am your host for this one, and I am joined this evening by Iain, Harry and Joe. Iain, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm great. Just had a really nice gusto pie. Listen to Eddie Howe, half of Eddie Howe's podcast with from the High Performance, and obviously yesterday at the time of recording we beat Southampton 4-1. So I'm doing great.
Happy days indeed. Yeah, I haven't yet watched the Eddie Howe thing. I was waiting for the YouTube video to drop, and then it dropped a bit late for watching it before making food and all sorts. But enough of my personal life. Harry, how are you getting on, my friend?
I'm okay, thank you very much, Scott. I'm brilliant.
Great.
You're okay, you're brilliant.
You're okay, you're brilliant.
I'm very tired. If you want to be honest answer, I'm extremely tired, but priorities.
Honesty is the key, Harry. It always is. And Joe, welcome back to your third match preview on the spin. You don't get a hat-trick ball, unfortunately, but we might get you a special badge in the Telegram group or something. I don't know. We'll see what we can do.
I'll be nice.
How are you this evening?
I'm great, mate. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah. Still absolutely shattered after watching yesterday's game. I wasn't even there. And I'm phenomenal. Fantastic. Love watching Miggy score.
Awesome. I mean, who doesn't, right? It's always a nice thing. So as I mentioned, we'll be looking towards the Crystal Palace game on Wednesday evening. But before I do that, as always, and as every week, we are sponsored by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle players, legends, and retro kits. They've also started to do the postcards. I think they went on sale on Friday for the month of October. Obviously, there's no defeats, so they're all good. If you want more information on that, you can go to magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. So let's get into it. The EFL Cup, or as I like to still refer to it as the Coca-Cola Cup, or as Harry alluded to, the Carling Cup and the Capital One Cup, and whoever wants to pay as much money as they want to be the name before the word cup. It's the League Cup, if you want to be really old school. We're in the third round. I can't remember. We didn't have to play a game again in the third round. We go straight in, don't we, as a Premier League team?
No, we beat Tranmere.
Beat Tranmere, mate.
We did.
Oh yes, we did before my birthday.
That was a minging game.
Like miles ago.
That was awful. I thought we were going to lose. I was awfully.
But usually they have the third round a lot sooner than this, don't they? So you'd be forgiven to think that.
Yeah, because we played Tranmere back in August. I'm pretty sure they announced a Palace game either the same week or the week after. So
August. I can't even remember what I did yesterday. So there we go. We do play Crystal Palace. It is, as I mentioned, a home fixture. Palace have been doing okay since we last played them a few weeks ago. Well, it was longer than a few weeks ago. They've got 4 wins, 2 defeats, and 1 draw. Iain, I'll come to you first. Obviously, that's a league performance, but what are your confidence levels going into this one?
Still really high. Palace are very. I thought under Vieira last season were very good. It started a little bit slower this season, but they are a good footballing side. I think the way that our camp again, I've alluded this to a couple of times on match previews. It's not so much about worrying about the opposition now. It's because we know that whatever team he puts out, whatever players are playing, they'll perform. So confidence is very, very high, especially I think it's a sold out game as well, which is absolutely amazing for a third round League Cup game. I think obviously we'll touch on it later in terms of lineups. I think there will be changes, but as I've said before, I think he's getting a tune out of literally everyone that's playing at the minute. So on the back of undefeated in 9 league games.
9 league games.
So
I mean, technically, we're undefeated in the Carabao Cup as well. So,
right, this is it.
Take that as well as a run.
Confidence will be really high. So, expecting and hoping to progress.
Yeah, I think we'll probably spend a bit longer today talking about Newcastle's lineup because the changes are expected. Joe, what are your feelings going into this game on Wednesday?
To be completely honest, I'm not quite as confident as the last couple of league games, and the main reason why is simply because of the potential changes that we will make and the potential changes that Palace will make. Again, not to get too much in the details about lineups just yet, but I know that some of the players that Palace played in their last fixture against Oxford, so they're sort of second string. I know they got a couple of injuries there, so you would expect that some of the first team players would come straight in, which suggests obviously a strong Palace side. What I have, again, the thing on our from our side of things, when we've made a few changes, especially sort of late into the game, you have noticed that there's a few little potential cracks, and we do tend to make a few mistakes. Now, that's not to say that the squad isn't good and that we don't have enough to get through. I think we absolutely do, but I just worry that those having some of those players come in that haven't been starting recently, it could cause us to be a little more shaky than what we're used to. So I'm just a little cautious. Confident but cautious, I think.
Yeah, it's always a funny one, the cup game, especially this early on. It's who's going to take it seriously, who's just going to field out a field of youngsters, or who's going to grab it by the scruff of the neck and give it a good go. And Harry, given our league position, what's your thoughts on this? Do you want us to go for this cup, or do you want us to concentrate more on the league? What would you prefer the priorities to be for Eddie Howe's team?
I think that's the thing. I think the priorities of the club will have probably changed as well. I remember at the start of the season, it was all kind of, as long as we're kind of, I suppose, top 10 and a good cup run, that's what we all would have been kind of delighted with, really. But I think it's very unexpected the position that we are in the league. I mean, we're third. Like, Newcastle United are third in the league after 13 games, and I know there's a few in hand, but I think in terms of priorities of Eddie Howe, I think the Carabao's not a bad one to go for. I think it also, we don't have a lot of depth in terms of quality players, but we do have depth in terms of players that Howe's coached, and I think that's a massive bonus for us, the manager that we have. He's turning these players into the world beaters, really. So I don't think priorities will change. I think they want to try and keep it pretty bang on. I think priorities will change probably January time. Once we start getting players to the door, then they'll be like, okay, let's kick on for kind of European spots like top 7. Because we are in that position where we can talk about that with, I suppose, some seriousness, really, not just kind of looking at it and hoping for it. But no, I think, don't get us wrong, I'd rather the FA Cup, but a cup's a cup. I could not care less at this point. The whole time I've supported Newcastle United, the midway, pretty much, it's been under Mike Ashley. So I don't care what happens. If we win, I'm over the moon. So I'd hope the priorities wouldn't change. I wouldn't mind to see a decent squad go out there and get a win and take some seriousness with the cups.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think if you'd asked anyone at the start of the season, like you said, a good cup run, regardless if it's FA Cup or Carabao Cup, or ideally both, would have been on the cards, and then the league would be, like you said, top half. But given where we are, who knows? I think a lot of fans would be thinking, oh, well, let's sack this one off to concentrate on the league position, and then we'll go for the FA Cup. Who knows? That's not what I think, but I've seen that being posted on Twitter by a few people and on the NUFC Reddit and all that sort of stuff. We'll turn to Palace. Like I mentioned, since we last played them, since that infamous 0-0 draw, or a 1-0 victory for Newcastle, as it should so rightly have been, they're sitting in 10th in the league with 4 wins, 2 losses and a draw. The 2 losses, I believe, were Everton and Chelsea. So a bit of a mixed bag on your defeats there. You get, 2-1, I think, was the Chelsea game, and then they got beat very recently against Everton 3-0. I think that was right after we beat Everton. Iain, obviously, league form and cup form are 2 totally different things, but do you expect Palace to come out all guns blazing for this?
It's a difficult one, because ultimately I think Palace, and I don't like using the phrase, are too good to go down. But if you look at how the Premier League's shaping up, I think there's obviously the bottom three at the minute, and then a couple that could drift in there. I think Palace are probably going to be safe this season, so they might look at this as an opportunity to have a really good go, similar to what our sort of hopes or ambitions were at the start of the season before we obviously turned into world-class Brazil. So it will be a difficult one. It depends, again, how Vieira wants to put his team out, whether he wants to give his sort of second stringer a run out, or if he wants to make a go for it. I think, obviously, last time we played Palace in the league, last season, not last time, was a nighttime game. And I think you might have mentioned getting under Wilf Zaha's skin and he sort of loses his head. And I think that was a game that he did that. Because he's literally done nothing for months. I've took him out my fantasy team and he had a great game on Sunday. So he might look to start and carry that form. So like you say, with cup form and league form, it's two completely different things. It's literally anyone's guess as to what team's going to be fielded, not just for Palace, for us as well. But you would hope that with the backing of the crowd, sold out, nighttime game, and listening to Eddie Howe's podcast, he wants to win. He wants to go into each game and win, and he's sort of Harry was talking about developing players and things like that. That's very much what he's been about. So I don't think he'll look at it as a sort of a free pass to just get minutes in players that aren't playing. I think he will field the strongest team he can to get a result in the cup.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Wilfried Zaha there. And yeah, I think he is, and I still stand by what I said in the last preview where we did about Palace, where if you can get under his skin early on, whether it be players or fans or whatever, and he doesn't get his own way, he spits his dummy out and he just goes missing for the game. But he is one of those players, kind of like St. Maximin, where you could have a really quiet game and then just one thing, one chance, one loose ball, he'll pounce on it and he'll get a goal. I did the same as you. I took him out of my fantasy league this week and brought in Gross from Brighton, and yeah, Zaha scored and Gross didn't. I think he got an assist though, so I'm okay there. But he is their top scorer with 6 goals. Their second top scorer is currently out injured is Eduardo or Edward. They've also got MacArthur and Richards as well who are out. So they've picked up a few knocks. I think they've been over the past few weeks, but I think Eduardo is pretty recent. Harry, given that, outside of those 2 top scorers, they've got players who scored 2-1 goals. Are you worried about the threat that Palace could potentially have, given how good our defence has been?
Well, how good our league defence has been. I think when you look at the Southampton game, Mankio was, he's going to be well off the pace. I don't think you can really judge the players that are coming on. He was out of the team for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And if you put anyone in the position that Kieran Trippier's just been in, it's not going to be good for you, really. Even Trent. So go to the World Cup, Trippier. But I think it's a tough one because they've got creative players. They've got Eberechi Eze. You've obviously got Zaha, that Elise as well. And then I'm sure is he Jean-Philippe Mateta, I think, who was fairly highly rated, and he's quite a unit. But with our kind of no-nonsense centre-backs that we could possibly bring in, we could probably play like Jamal Lascelles and even kind of maybe Dan Burn back in the middle. I think we should be all right. We really should be all right. Like you said, there's just Zaha with a vast number of goals, and then obviously the second goal scorer is out as well. So I think we'll be all right. It just completely depends on what we do up the pitch as well.
Yeah, it's a funny one with Palace because they don't seem to do very well away. Their away form isn't the best. They seem to do a lot better at home. Although, to be honest, when we played them, it was quite an even game. I thought up until kind of midway through the second half, where we started to take over a little bit, and then it grew. They kind of grew back into it. We'll move on to Newcastle and what we think they're going to do. I'll come to you, Joe, first for this one. obviously changes are expected. I don't think anyone's expecting him to field exactly the same starting 11 as he did yesterday or on Sunday, if you're watching this on Tuesday. What are your thoughts just initially on kind of what Howe's plan will be for this in terms of a lineup?
You know what? I'm actually really fascinated to see what he does, because this game is quite unique, actually, because most of the time you'd have this game smack bang in the middle of league fixtures, wouldn't you? But obviously we only have one league game until the massive break with the World Cup. So it's really a case of, do you give the players a well-needed rest, or do you ask them to push through just one last time? Because let's be honest, I think, well, we have a handful going to the World Cup, but, you know, a lot of them will be staying behind for this sort of mini pre-season that we've got. It'll be interesting to see whether he asks them to do one last sort of final push. I think another interesting thing which Eddie, I will be conscious of, is the harmony within the squad. Obviously, you started most of the games with the same team, roughly, near enough, and he'll want to make sure that some of those fringe players will, you know, want to know that they're getting a game. So, like the likes of Lascelles, obviously Matt Target. So it'll be really interesting. I do expect some changes, maybe not as many as we normally would if this game was in any other season. I would probably expect Matt Target to come in. I expect Maxi to probably start. May not get the full 90 minutes, but I expect him to probably start because he'll want to get those minutes into his legs. Shelby's an interesting one. I don't know if he'll start Shelby because he's been very cautious with him, and our midfield has been phenomenal. So yeah, I'm not as confident that he'll start Shelby, but you never know. He could do.
Yeah, that middle of the park is interesting because obviously Joe Linton's back from suspension. But Joe Willock,
yeah, he is.
Longstaff, and Bruno all did an amazing job at the weekend. And Eddie Howe, you know, I think if this was a league game, Joe Linton wouldn't get back into that. He wouldn't just walk back into that starting 11 because that wouldn't be fair on the players who came in. Although Joe Linton has been playing on the left of more recent games, so who knows? I'm with you. I think Maxi will start. I think he needs to get those minutes in his legs because he came on and obviously he did get the assist for Bruno's goal against Southampton. But apart from that, he didn't do much. I think it took him a good 10 minutes to even get involved in the game when he came on. And by then, you've only got 10 minutes left. So, you know, hats off to him. He got the assist. He managed to get the pass off to Bruno to score that beautiful goal at the end of the game yesterday. I also think, though, if we move up to, you know, the striker who starts, I think if Callum Wilson's fit, and I'm in terms of he's over his illness, he starts. And the reason for that is he's only got 2 games left, potentially only 1 game left, to really tip Southgate's decision. He'll want to play that game regardless. Iain, obviously Chris Wood came on and got a very good goal, a very, very tidy finish. Does that warrant Wood keeping his place, or if Wilson's fit, do you put him in?
This is a difficult one. I think in the mindset of a fan, you always want your best, and I think to some degree Eddie Howe does this as well. If you're performing well, you'll keep your place, and I think as a fan, you always want your best player starting. Just touching on sort of what Joe said, it's a case of I don't envy his decisions that he's having to make because obviously like you say, the harmony within the squad, the morale must be absolutely through the roof. But then it's a case of needing to call on those players, even just to give, I don't know, like even if the fringe players come in for 60 minutes and then he brings on players for half an hour, just to give those legs a little bit of a rest because we all know what sort of tactics and intensity and how hard we press it does take its toll. So this might be an opportunity to get some of those fringe players in. I do think you probably will go with Wood. Just judging on obviously Wilson, I think I completely see your point about there only being 2 games, but I think you'll probably look to put Wood in and play some of the players that aren't getting a lot of minutes, like the maybe Fraser coming in, Shelby obviously is at maximum target. But again, it's a case of us sit here every match preview thinking about what could happen, and literally it's anyone's guess. The only person that knows at the end of the day would be Eddie Howe. But I definitely don't envy his decisions that he's having to make, because he's obviously going to have to keep some players happy. He's obviously going to have to keep morale happy. So it is a little bit of a difficult one. But I would expect, I think, a few changes to come in. But where they will be is anyone's guess. Because like you say, you don't really want to upset the back four. But then I think Trippier obviously was feeling his hamstring or his groin. So you don't want to risk him, especially in terms of his World Cup. You've got the likes of Target, who really hasn't put a foot wrong since he's been here. He's just been kept outside by a very well performing back five. The midfield, anyone that goes in there looks very solid. But again, Willock, I think Willock went off with possibly a knock or tired legs towards the end against Southampton. So completely depends on what players he's got at his disposal and how he wants to attack it. So to sum up, Scott, I haven't got a clue.
Not a Scooby. Excellent. Yeah, I think if you saw, even Miggy Almiron was down on the deck by the end of the game, and he wasn't injured. He just looked knackered. He was just I can't run anymore. I've scored too many goals. I cannot run anymore. So we'll see what happens. I think an interesting area of the pitch where we might see a change is in goal. Obviously, Nick Pope's done so well, and to be fair, apart from the Southampton game, the past few games, he hasn't had much to do. I don't think there's been a shot on target the 2 games before that. So we have an abundance of a selection of goalkeepers. We've got Carl Darler, who was back on the bench at the weekend, which totally flew under the radar for me. I didn't realise that until after the game that Darler was on the bench. And obviously we've got Karius, who came in on that short-term deal, yet to feature. Harry, in terms of a goalkeeper, is it a case of just keep Nick Pope because he hasn't really been utilised much when he's been on the field? Or do you give someone else a chance like Darlow or Karius, even if it's kind of just as a cameo appearance for a one-off game? Because I think after this, Karius's contract's up, right? He's done. He's only a short-term 6-month contract, if that. So he's probably done by January.
I think it's an interesting one because with Eddie Howe, obviously we always say if you play well, you're in goal on the pitch. But then I also think if you've got players there that aren't playing, yes, the morale is fantastically high in the squad. But I think what helps morale is when the players get that experience on the pitch within the first team. I wouldn't mind to see a change in goal, whether that is Karius or Darlow. To be honest, I don't have a preference. I wouldn't mind to see Karius in a Newcastle shirt, to be honest. I don't think he's a bad keeper. I mean, we all know what he's remembered for and what he's known for, but when he first started getting onto the scene, he looked like a good keeper. In terms of kind of the rest of the pitch, I think we've got some very tired lads, to be honest. I mean, they've gone through a heavy period here, trying to get a lot in before the World Cup. But then obviously you've got Joe Linton, you've got Maxi, Shelby, all these players who are kind of come back from injuries and suspensions that have had rest. Yes, the match fitness might not be 100%, but I think that's where you've got to start those players, especially if we want to kind of go far in this competition or any competition. You can't just go, well, you can have a go, you can have a go, you can have a go. You've got to have some experience and some kind of class within that team. I think that's what Shelby will bring. I can almost see the game kind of being championship quality. I can't see it being kind of as fast-paced as the Premier League, and especially if we play Shelby. Nothing against Shelby, but he just pings balls, and that is very championship, which makes me also think, obviously it's not guaranteed that Shelby will start, but I do think Wood will start. Like Iain was saying, I know exactly what you're saying with Wilson, but it's that thing where Wood's just got a goal, and it was a fantastic goal. So he could be thinking, I'm going to go for this. And I don't think we'll keep Wood for a long time. I think he possibly could be gone in the summer if the right deal comes in. It'll be nowhere near 25 million, but it would be good to see him kind of get in the team because, yes, everyone slates him and saying 25 million for Wood. wasn't for Wood, I mean, he was kind of everything. Like the whole players that we brought in that January was everything. Then everyone played the part. So I think you got Wood starting, Mackie starting, Shelby starting, Target. I think Fraser will start as well, but I do find Elliot Anderson a funny one as well, because I wouldn't mind to see him just get a decent amount of time out. Yes, I'm sure he started against Tranmere or played a fair bit against Tranmere. But I wouldn't mind to see him.
Last 20, I think.
Was it last 20?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to see him start because why not? He does look good. There's a few times that he's came on and done too much, but if he's starting the game and he's up with the pace of the game, I think he could be handy. Yes, I prefer him on the wing, but he could probably play a pretty good role in centre midfield, just ahead of kind of Shelby. And I don't have a clue who's going to play in that three. I mean, we're all assuming that he's going to play the same system. I mean, I think he will. I think there's been too many positives and too much success from that formation and in that system. But there's always a chance he could change it up just to try get some players in, really.
Yeah, I was going to move on to the youngsters and whether anyone will get a start. Obviously, Elliot Anderson is top of that list when it comes to youngsters getting a start. I'm with you. I'd like to see him, if anything, for him, get a start at St James's Park, let him, run out under the lights and really kind of soak up that atmosphere, which I think is different if you're on the bench to if you're the player on the field. I wouldn't mind seeing someone like maybe Matty Bondswell as well. Yeah.
So I was going to say, I'm second guessing myself. I think he might have actually started the Tranmere game. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually second guessing now. But yeah, I think it would be a great opportunity for him to get some minutes.
Well, I don't even remember it happened, so you know more than me.
No, I think I now remember getting subbed off. Now it was a while back. It was a couple of months now.
There's been too many games and too many goals. Too many goals for Newcastle since that game to remember that game. So yeah, I'd like to see Elliot Anderson have a start, but then it's the question of where does he play? Who does he come on for? He's being used on the left. That's where Maxi is typically going to come in, or if Joe Linton's back, he's potentially going to come in. So we'll see what happens there. We'll come to predictions, and I'll stick with you, Harry, for your prediction first of all, because I never come to you first for these predictions. So you're under the spotlight. There you go. Your predictions,
no worries. I think it could kind of have a lot of goals in the game. I think it'll be a mixed bag from both squads of the players that they have. And I think we'll win 3-2. I think it'll be a goal fest.
3-2. I'd like that. Joe, your prediction?
Right, before I do my prediction, does it go straight to penalties if it's you got
There's only penalties. There's only extra time in the quarters in the final.
Yeah, because I knew it was the last round. I couldn't remember if it carried on to the say. Okay, fine. Yeah. If that's the case, I'm different from Harry. I don't think it will be quite as high scoring. I think it will be quite scrappy. I think it'll be very physical in the midfield. I'm gonna say 1-1, and then we win on penalties. I think.
I can't handle penalties.
I know.
I can't have Newcastle.
I know. Hey, I can't. But I just, I think I just don't think it'll be quite as free flowing as we used to see in the league, to be honest. But yeah, like we said earlier, it all depends on how many changes he makes. If he makes enough, I think we could see it being a little bit disjointed at times. But I'm still confident we'll do enough.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is only going to be 90 minutes plus injury time and penalties may also influence his team selection as well. Mm-hmm. If you think of, there's no chance of playing 120 minutes, so why not just keep out a strong team and go for it? So we'll see what happens. I mean, we played 3 games in the week. Last week, was it? Or the week before? With the midweek game at Spurs. So the players can do it, but they are coming off that and they are looking a bit tired. Iain, your prediction, my friend.
I agree with Joe. I think if he is bringing in, again, it completely depends on what team he feels. But I think if I remember rightly back to the Tranmere game, I think it was very scrappy. I don't think we had the quality that we've shown with obviously the first team players. That being said, this could be players' sort of last opportunity to show that they belong to stay at the club. Obviously, we're in the dizzy heights of third, and there's all the talk of sort of what players could be coming in. This could be ultimately their chance to show sort of what they have to offer the club. I'm going to be optimistic. I think just the morale is really high. I think even if he does bring the players in, the likes of the players that are coming back, I said, I think it was on Extra Time, the likes of St. Maximum, Joe Linton, Shelby, Fraser, they're not bad players to come in. So I'm going to go for 2-1 win.
2-1, nice. Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research into the numbers for Palace, and they do tend to, like I said, they're not the best away in terms of their form, but that is in the league. I think from what I've seen, it was 60% of their games away are over 2.5 goals. So I'm going to buck that trend because it's the league, and I think we're going to win 1-0. And I think it'll be on the hour mark. I think we'll score around that time. So I'm not going to say who's going to score because I don't know who's going to start, but I think it'll be just a 1-0. I think it'll be a dominant performance from Newcastle, but I think we'll struggle to score because Palace, like I said, shy of the Everton game, their results have been pretty low scoring, kind of like Southampton. Although we all saw what happened with Southampton after I said they don't concede many goals. So I'll say that again, and it'll be a 5-0 win. No, I'll stick with 1-0 for that one. Obviously, we'll be back for another match preview this week as well for the Chelsea game. So we'll be able to see pretty quickly how bad or good all of our predictions have been tonight. Is there anything anybody wants to add before we wrap this one up?
Yeah.
On the sorry.
Gutted for Joe Linton not getting in the Brazil squad ahead of Fred, particularly. Even Paqueta, who obviously we're linked, probably not, but we're wanting to see because he's Bruno's best friend. I just think on form. But saying that, Joe Linton's literally not even a year into that position. He's probably got a little bit more learning to do. It's not a million miles away from him, but I think given his upturn in form, I think that would have been the icing on the cake for him to get in the World Cup squad. But maybe he's next World Cup.
I think the fact he got on the provisional will probably mean he'll get a chance to play for Brazil in the future, unless they win it. I think if Brazil win it, then that team, that squad, you have to stick with that moving forward for as long as you possibly can. So we'll see what happens there. Joe, you wanted to add something as well, mate?
No, I was just going to say, I was reading on the Palace website that they were hinting that Johnson, which is their second choice keeper, might be starting. Obviously that'd be good for us. So we'll have to wait and see. It might be 5-0, yeah. No, just to echo on that, Joe Linton front, is a shame for him. I just think that if he keeps his consistency up over the next year or two, and you can only get better under Howe, right? So and I can see him being a starter for us for a good few years to come. So I think he's got every chance of getting in future squads, like you said, unless they win it.
I hope he's not gutted by it, though. I really hope he's not gutted. Like, he will be. Don't get us wrong. I think no matter who you are, you're going to be good. But I just hope it doesn't dampen the spirits. And I think at least he's got something to fight for with at club level. Say if he was playing this well and we were sitting in 12th, then I think he'd struggle. But the fact that we have something going for us in the league, I think hopefully it picks him up. And I think Bruno will be a pretty good mentor for him as well, to kind of sit there and be like, this, and fingers crossed, because I absolutely love him.
I think the fact that Tete was at St. James's a couple of weeks ago and had a little meal with Bruno the night before the game, I think Joe Linton probably already knew. I think Tete would have been like, look, I'm not going to pick Joe Linton, but I can't disclose anything, but just to let you know, like, I think he's probably already had the chance to get over whatever bad news. And to be fair, it's not really bad news because he made the provisional squad. He's never played for Brazil before. So
I'm just listening to this conversation.
He's not missing anything. He's not quite at that level, I think, because Brazil have some good players, and we've Fred is probably one that maybe is the one that he should be replacing. But
Yeah.
Fred
It's
has
down to the system
experience
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
You
who would have
Anyway,
thought?
this isn't the Fred show. This isn't the Brazil show. We
Dan
will,
Burn for England.
We will probably Dan Burn for England. Ooh, Dan Burn. Kieran Trippier. Nick. Five potential. Is it 5 players?
Four.
4 players?
Why not?
4 Newcastle players
Longstaff.
in an England squad.
Yeah, I get him in there, man. He's class.
Get
Joe
them all
Willock.
in. Joe Willock.
Shelby.
Get Shelby in there as well.
Let's just take Newcastle to the World Cup.
11.
I just take Newcastle itself.
Yeah,
Who would have
we'll get
thought, though, a
ourselves in as
year
well.
ago that we would have had a conversation about Joe Linton missing out on a Brazil squad?
Who would have thought we'd be speaking about any Newcastle player getting into any international
Any
side,
industry,
even the
yeah.
ones who were season vets this time last year? Honestly, the way that we're performing, even Fabian Schär wouldn't have got into the Switzerland squad. And he kind of walks into that squad from understanding. Well, in the squad, not the team. Anyways, let's wrap this one up. Thanks very much to Harry, Joe, and Ian for joining me this evening. And thanks you for watching. If you've liked this content, please consider becoming a subscriber to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. All you got to do is scroll down from this video, hit the little subscribe button, and while you're there, hit the thumbs up or thumbs down, because that feeds the algorithm to let us know, let other Newcastle fans know about this video. And if you're listening to us on the podcast channels on Spotify or iTunes podcasts or wherever it is you're listening to, give us a rating, 5 stars, 4 stars. It's all you need. Gets us up those rankings. And again, just like the thumbs up, thumbs down on YouTube, helps us reach other people on those podcast channels. And if you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program as well. It's $2.99 a month, and that gets you early access to videos as well as access to the Telegram group. And we also sometimes invite some of our members on to do a match preview or take part in other videos. But that is it for this one. We'll go into this game brimming with confidence, with the unknown of who's going to be picked for that starting 11. But I'm sure whatever happens, we will get behind Eddie Howe's 3rd place mags. I've been Scott. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Ta-da.
See you later.